Coming up on the bench, Syracuse men's soccer was on the precipice of glory. Could the Orange bring home an ACC crown for the first time in 7 years? We've got the answer for you.
While men's soccer continues to surprise, SU football is also turning heads, but for the wrong reasons. In the midst of a 3-game losing streak, Florida State makes the trip to the Dome, looking to make it 4. Can the Orange stop the bleeding on Senior Day?
And SU men's basketball entered tonight looking for revenge against Colgate from last year's upset. But the Raiders proved to be tough again. Would Jim Boeheim's squad be able to avoid an early slip-up? All that and 45 minutes worth of more on the bench starts right now. On the bench is on the scene. John Dales alongside Anthony Vasquez for a special edition of OTB. Anthony, first of all, it's cold outside. I know you're not familiar with this from California.
40-degree weather. It never happens in California.
Well, the reason why we're here in front of SU Soccer Stadium is Syracuse men's soccer has really taken the ACC and the country by storm this season. Heading into this year, you lose DeAndre Kerr, you lose Hilly Goldhar in the transfer portal, and you think maybe it's not that great of a year for Syracuse, but they've really proved that wrong, and especially in the ACC tournament.
Levante Johnson and Nathan Mpoku have been the two biggest players for the Syracuse squad. How about the defense for the Orange as well? And same thing with Russell Shealy and the goalkeeper.
So you get into ACC tournament play, and all these ACC teams are really close, evenly matched. And it started off in the first game, the quarterfinals right behind us. North Carolina and Syracuse went down to the wire.
Levante Johnson put on a Superman cape, scoring a late goal to give Cuse a 1-0 win.
And then the second game, the semifinals, Virginia comes here. Syracuse is trailing for most of that contest. You get into the 80th minute plus. SU needs a goal, ended up getting it, and wins it in penalties.
And how about Syracuse getting revenge? Because SU only has 2 losses on the year, UVA one of them.
So Syracuse avenges its previous loss, then all of a sudden travels down to a little bit nicer of a place to play, Cary, North Carolina, for the ACC championship game against Clemson. These two teams met once in the regular season, a 2-1 Syracuse win, but obviously a whole lot more on the line in this one. And right away, 10th minute, a chance for Clemson on the corner. A little bit too much congestion in front of the net, though, and that opportunity goes by the wayside. Chance for Syracuse in the 20th minute, and Lorenzo Baselli cashes in. He scored the equalizer late against Virginia in the semis, and he puts SU up 1-0 early in the championship game. Russell Shealy helping his own cause on the other side, and then Syracuse not satisfied with that 1-goal lead. Before half, this is Kurt Kaloff finding Jonah Leibold to put Syracuse on top 2-0. 45 minutes in. Second half, more of the same story. Joey Skinner with an opportunity. Russell Shealy pushes it aside, and that'd be the story the entire 90 minutes. Clemson can't score. 2-0. Syracuse takes home the ACC title. So the Orange take down the Tigers 2-0 and win their first ACC title since 2015. Anthony, Lorenzo Baselli was huge in that Virginia game, scored a goal late to keep SU win it, and he scored the first goal in this one, which ended up being the game-winning goal.
Even though he's not a household name like Nathan Mpoku or Levante Johnson, Lorenzo Baselli came up huge for the Syracuse team, and that's what you need come tournament time.
Christian Curdy, another guy who played a big role for SU in this tournament run, got on the all-tournament team. So did Russell Shealy. He's been dominant.
Russell Shealy, man, the mainstay in that defense, the netminder and goal, he's going to be huge too.
All right, so Syracuse goes to the NCAA tournament, looks ahead now, and as we welcome you back outside SU Soccer Stadium, we now welcome on Andrew Selover, our CitrusTV men's soccer beat reporter. He was down in Cary for the ACC championship game. First of all, nicer venue there than here, at least nicer weather?
Lovely place down there, 60 and sunny, and a huge stadium, awesome for college soccer.
All right, well, Andrew, how about your thoughts on the season as a whole? Because coming into this year, the Orange really not expected to do much. You lose DeAndre Kerr from last year, and voted 4th out of 6 teams in the preseason ACC Atlantic.
Yeah, talking to a couple of the players, that didn't really matter to this team. Nobody sees you play for 6 months, so those really preseason standings and votes don't really matter a lot. And talking to some of the captains like Anthony Sinclair, Noah Singelman, a part of what made this team so good this year was they kept a lot of key players, and they were close last year. Lost so many ACC games in overtime, actually beat the national champions Clemson 2-0 last season, and so they carry over a lot of experience, bring in a couple big transfers like Mpoku, like Levante Johnson. That's what brings the SU team to the number 3 national seed in the NCAA tournament, highest seeding in school history.
Andrew, we saw it on display in the ACC tournament, an electric offense, a stifling defense, and Russell Shealy being the goalkeeper. Is there anything that surprised you the most this season with this SU squad?
No, I don't think so. Biggest thing I think for Syracuse that made them good this year was they stayed away from injury. SU has been healthy all year. Biggest injury right now is Booster Schoberg missed the last 2 games at center back. Unsure if he'll be available for Syracuse in the tournament, but it really didn't matter in the ACC championship.
It certainly didn't. Now, there were 2 unbelievable games in that quarterfinal and semifinal. The championship, probably the least entertaining of the 3. Take us through how the Orange survived and advanced in the quarterfinals, semis, and in the championship.
Yeah, you mentioned quarterfinals right here at the SU Soccer Stadium against North Carolina. Syracuse records 1 shot on goal all game. Came in the 85th minute, Levante Johnson with the winning goal. Syracuse just pulled out another close one. That's what they've been really good at all season. Didn't have a ton of possession, but managed to find a way. And same thing against Virginia. Orange take a lead early 1-0 with a penalty kick. Then Virginia takes the lead back 2-1. And late in the game, Virginia just sitting back, trying to defend and move on. Syracuse and Lorenzo Baselli, who's been fantastic on a goal-scoring role recently, comes up with an equalizer. Orange winning penalty kicks. And then a dominant performance against Clemson in the ACT title game, one of the hottest teams in college soccer of late. The Tigers go in, Syracuse scores 2 first-half goals and just dominates in possession.
Andrew, you mentioned that the Orange continue to find a way, and that's what they're going to need come tournament time. Continue to win games, survive, and advance. How do you think that'll play come NCAA tournament time?
I think this team's played a lot of big games, especially outside of the conference and in the conference. Playing the best college soccer conference in the ACC, you obviously play big games, but also you play the Cornells, you play the Vermonts, Penn States, and non-con. You're ready for big-time games. Syracuse, will see how they fare in the second round after a bye against the winner of Penn and Rutgers, and then a possible third-round matchup against Cornell, one of 2 teams to beat SU this season. Couldn't ask for much more to start the tournament.
3-seeded Syracuse could have a rematch against Cornell, could have a rematch against Vermont. We'll see. Well, in any case, stay tuned to Andrew Selover's coverage of the Orange as they make a run at the NCAAs. Well, that'll do it for us outside. When we come back, Anthony and I are going to warm up inside the studio and talk a little Syracuse football. Stick with us. OTV, back after this.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Hey, welcome into our CitrusTV studio. John Dales, Anthony Vasquez. A little warmer in here.
That's right,
huh?
a little warmer. Don't need the sweater on, and it feels great.
We've ditched the coats, we've ditched the winter gloves and warm up, and now we start with this week's headlines. We start on the pitch, where Ian McIntyre was named the ACC Coach of the Year. After 2 consecutive seasons finishing below 500, the 13th-year head coach guided SU to an ACC Atlantic Division title before earning this honor. He gave our OTB crew a shout-out on Twitter this week, too, so any accolades coming his way, as far as I'm concerned, well-deserved.
Moving from the pitch to the hardwood now, where women's basketball will be without one of their transfers for the rest of the season. Forward Olivia Owens recently announced she will voluntarily leave her team barely a week into the campaign. The grad transfer from Kentucky was absent through the Q's first 2 games due to what Coach Leggett Jack called team rules issues.
And Syracuse men's basketball just offered a scholarship to Kyan Anthony, the son of SU alum Carmelo Anthony, who of course led the Orange to a national title back in 2003. The class of 2025 four-star point guard made a trip to the Dome for the SU football game on Saturday, and had just said days earlier that Cuse was at the top of his list of schools he was considering.
Women's soccer goalkeeper Shea Vanderbosch earned herself a place on the ACC's all-freshman team. The New York native finished her rookie campaign with 3 shutouts and was top 3 in the ACC in both saves and save percentage. While the season may have not gone the way of the Orange, especially in ACC play, the netminder provides a building block that coach Nikki Thrasher Adams can use as she continues to fight an uphill battle that is rebuilding the women's soccer program.
And the snowfall may make it feel like we're a long ways away from spring, but Syracuse men's lacrosse made some news today by announcing its captains for the 2023 season. Pete Fiorini, Max Rosa, Griffin Cook, Cole Kirst, and Caden Cole were all named captains by their teammates and coaches. Those will be 5 names leading the charge for year 2 of the Gary Gait era, which begins in February.
And Syracuse football fans will have a reason to follow the sport into the spring after it was announced today that former QB standout Eric Dungy is going to be the starting quarterback of the XFL's DC Defenders. You can watch the former Signal Caller when he opens his season mid-February.
Well, you may have forgotten with all the soccer news that's going on SU's campus, there's still a football season going on, and the Orange entered senior night on a 3-game losing skid, standing in their way to break that 23rd ranked Florida State. And in the first quarter, this one became all Florida State real quick. Even though Garrett Schrader was making his return, right away a touchdown in the first quarter by Jordan Travis makes it 7-0 FSU on top right away. And again, more of the same. Derek McDonald will end up making a play here. He strip sacks Jordan Travis, ball comes loose, and Syracuse gets it. But that was basically the only highlight that Syracuse would have this entire game. Here's another FSU highlight. Already up 14-3. That made it 21-3. Johnny Wilson's 24-yard touchdown. 24-3 FSU at half. And in the third quarter, more of the same. Kentron Portier, 5-yard touchdown. Jordan Travis had himself an evening, and he didn't finish it right there. In the third quarter with 5 minutes left, he finishes this one off with a 2-yard touchdown pass to Wyatt Rector. 38-3. Florida State demolishes Syracuse senior night bitter inside the Dome. Well, Anthony, Garrett Schrader makes his return to the field and just it ended up terrible. What went wrong for SC?
Different QB rather, same offense. Yeah. Syracuse really just laid an egg right there. I'm not too sure if it was the running game that was stifled or the fact that Coach and I got figured out, but this is panic time for SU.
Yeah, certainly things are going wrong with this SU football team. As you take a look at some of the numbers from that game, I mean, Florida State doubling and tripling Syracuse in some categories. I think that 65 is the big number that sticks out to me. How in the world, when you bring back your starting quarterback, he goes out there and goes 65 yards through the air? That's not going to get the job done against a ranked team.
Absolutely not, and that's what Syracuse's issues have been so far in this losing streak. You know, the fact that Syracuse hasn't been able to move the football, and that leads us into our next topic, and that is the struggling trend that is going on right now. You see that first 6 games, 36 points per game compared to just 14. That can't happen for SU, and that's not just on Carlos Del Rio Wilson. That's on Garrett Schrader as well, starting that last game on Florida State. Every stat on the offensive side of the ball is taking a turn for the worst. And it isn't just points per game, like I said, that's just dipping. You can toss out any stat you want, yards per game, yards per play, you name it, and it's probably going down. And I'm sure fans are anxious about the outlook for this team as the season concludes. And here to talk more about SU struggles is the guest. John snuck into the studio.
Well, we're talking SU football. We got to bring in one of the best football minds around here. Ethan Frank, welcome into the studio.
Thank you very much, John. Great to be here.
Well, Ethan, my first question for you, we kind of talked about it. That offense, abysmal, is a word that tends to fit the way that they played against Florida State. And that's also been a trend the past couple of weeks. What have opposing teams been doing to figure out this SU offense?
Yeah, it's really since the second half of the Clemson game. I know you were down in South Carolina watching that contest, but teams have just figured out Robert Anae. And Aronde Gadsden's getting double-teamed. He was the weapon for Syracuse at the start of this season, the player nobody saw coming in the receiving corps. And Anae gets lambasted for not using Sean Tucker enough against Clemson. He brings him back the next couple of weeks. Doesn't really make that much of a difference. He gets 5 carries, he gets 10. 10, he gets 15. He's still not doing much. So Syracuse's offense, I know there have been some problems. Who's going to start at quarterback? Is it going to be Schrader? Is it going to be Del Rio Wilson? Some injuries mixed in there. Nothing's working, and that falls on Anai and Babers.
And I get lambasted like he's in a group text with Braden Reed. It's unbelievable, but probably warranted, losing 4 games in a row. Let's look ahead at the rest of the season. Wake Forest on Saturday, Boston College after that. Already bowl eligible, so you have a bowl game. Final 3 games of the year. What are you expecting out of the Orange?
Not much. I mean, it feels like this is only going to continue to snowball. And when you look at the last few weeks, you sense a trend, and that is that Syracuse is not even close to as talented as the teams it's facing. Here are some recruiting rankings for you, John. Over the last 6 cycles, Dino Babers has not had a recruiting class higher than 9th in the ACC. That's out of 14 ACC teams, and I'm sure if you include Notre Dame, who's in the ACC for not football, but a team Syracuse plays on the regular, that number would only continue to go up. So that's the talent problem. Wake Forest, that's a really good football team. BC, not so much, but just got a really good win at NC State, a team that Syracuse beat earlier in this season. We'll see what happens there. Not exactly sure what the bowl game is going to look like. A couple of projections, maybe the Gasparilla Bowl down in Florida, the Fenway Bowl in Boston. Those could be some smaller names where SU takes on some interesting opponents.
4 losses in a row, and Ethan Frank says more may be coming down the chute. Well, Ethan, thank you for joining us in studio. We are up against a break here on OTB. Stick around, though. When we come back, our reporter Colin Davies joins us live from the JMA Dome following a stunning result inside there. Hear what he has to say about exactly what happened when we come back.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a 4th ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back into OTB. John Dales, Anthony Vasquez. AV, what type of toothpaste do you use? What brand?
Toothpaste? I think I know where this is going.
Yeah?
Colgate.
Colgate,
Colgate
really?
guy.
Well,
Big
I'll tell you
time.
what, I haven't asked him, but I bet Jim Boeheim doesn't use Colgate
Probably not.
toothpaste. Probably too harsh of feelings after Colgate University barnstormed the Dome last year and knocked off SU men's hoops 100-85. But back again this year, the Orange had a chance to get revenge tonight, just under a year later, and SU came up short for the 2nd year in a row. Colgate has taken down Syracuse inside the JMA Dome. This time, the Raiders take it 80-68. Really unbelievable. 2 straight seasons the Raiders knock off the Orange.
And it's because of the 3-point shooting. 50% from the field was Colgate. That's how they scored 80 points, including Tucker Richardson, 7 of 11 from deep.
Well, our reporter Colin Davies was covering the game for CitrusTV, and after the loss, now he joins us live from the JMA Dome. Colin, I'll try and sum up exactly how all of CNY feels right now with this first question. What happened? What went wrong for SU to lose this game a 2nd year in a row?
Yeah, everything went wrong for Syracuse today. I know the lights are on here in the Dome right now, but they were shot out by Colgate. They set a record in this stadium, shooting and making 19 three-pointers. And when you're breaking records from beyond the arc, you can't keep up, and this offense definitely couldn't keep up.
And Colin, we saw the Orange have virtually no answers to the Raiders' high-flying offense. So did you see any adjustments made on the defensive side to try and stop them?
Yeah, Coach Boeheim afterwards said he was actually happy with the defense, but they started out the game man-to-man, and they were outmatched individually. He recognized that right away. He switched to a zone defense, but it didn't do much to help. Colgate was able to penetrate the zone all game and create lanes on the outside and get open shooters, and that's why this game went the way it did.
Colin, thank you. Syracuse women's hoops actually had the first crack at Colgate back on Thursday. Felicia Leggett-Jack started her SU coaching career with a 23-point win over Stony Brook that Monday, but she said a lot of room to improve heading into this second contest. And right away, we'd see that coach, well, her players answered that question. She brought over Deasia Fair with her from Buffalo, and this is going to be first Elena Rice getting the block and setting up the fast break right to Deasia Fair. Goes up and under and in. That offense gets kick-started. And then Rice, in the second quarter, going to work and finding Tisha Hyman on a couple of passes. Syracuse lived down in the paint, scored 40 in the paint this game. Colgate finished the game with only 48 points total. And Fair, once more, driving into the lane. That put SU up big in the third quarter. Really didn't look back the whole time. Sanaya Wilson with a layup late in the game to salt this one away. 72-48, the Orange take down the Raiders on the women's side.
So SU took care of one in-state foe, but can it go 2 for 2? Binghamton made the trip up I-81 to battle a team that's lost just one non-conference home game in the past 6 years. And let's just say the Orange are heavy favorites yet again. Syracuse trying to start the Felicia Leggett-Jack era 3-0, but it was the Bearcats throwing some punches early on. One of them is this Genevieve Coleman triple to put Binghamton out in front. But as the game settled down, so did the Q's offense. Deasia Fair, step back three, filthy from the Buffalo transfer. Now the Orange dominated every facet of the game, including the fast break category of the box score. 28 big ones in that category, one of them including this Deasia Fair fancy layup. The bludgeoning continued in the second half, especially down low, where Dariana Lewis scoops it in for 2. Then for good measure, Tisha Hyman the nice spin around Jay. Q's rolls in this one, and our very own Nick Luttrell has more on the hot start.
17 points, 10 rebounds, 4 blocks. That was the stat line from Dariana Lewis tonight, who led Syracuse to a whopping 92-59 win over Binghamton tonight. In the post-game press conference, head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack talked about how exciting it is to be able to coach the Alabama A&M transfer.
She's just so much fun to coach. You know, we really went through a lot this summer to get her to get that word trust in her vocabulary. You know, this is her third school, and you know, I didn't push her to trust me, but I asked her to, and we did the work, and she's doing the work, and it's evolving. And for the last 2 months, she's been just magical, and just a joy to coach.
A lot of people think I can't do it. A lot of people think, you know, I was only successful because I was in a lower conference. So, you know, that chip on my shoulder, it makes me go hard every day. Also, it's just me. You know what I'm saying? I bring that energy on the glass. Even if nothing is going right, I know I'm going to rebound. So I just try to bring that intensity every day in practice and in the games.
And it wasn't just the Dariana Lewis show tonight. The Orange, as a team, played exceptional, shooting 50% from the field. They also had 25 points off of turnovers. Where does that leave the Orange? Well, they're 3-0. They'll try to keep their undefeated record going on Thursday night against Long Island University. Reporting from the Dome, I'm Nick Luttrell, CitrusTV.
Great stuff as always, Nick. That wraps up our Hoops Talk. Another break here on OTV. When we return, it's time to talk SU Field Hockey's NCAA tournament run. Were the Orange able to survive and advance? Stick around to find out.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back, everybody, to On the Bench. He's John Dales. I'm Anthony Vasquez. And John, what is better than tournament time in college sports?
Not much, really not much. Ice cream, maybe?
Okay, I agree with you there. You know, and a lot of the attention gets paid towards March Madness, but these fall sports have some exciting drama as well. And while men's soccer is preparing for its matchup, one team was trying to make a run over the weekend. Field hockey marched down to College Park, Maryland, Turtle territory, for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Its first opponent, the same Princeton team that ransacked the Orange 5-1 in September, middle September rather. And with the way things started out, you were probably saying, oh no, here we go again. Princeton on the attack, on the board early in this do or die matchup. Then all of a sudden, Ange Bradley's squad wakes up and in a big way. Charlotte Davies swipes the carpet and sends a heat-seeking missile. That ties the game up at 2, and this is where the dam finally breaks. Davies, right place at the right time, puts the Qs out in front. Then in the fourth quarter, Yvke van den Nieuwenhof on a penalty stroke. She eats those for breakfast. That puts Syracuse up for good, and why not tack on one more? Ricocheted into the goal by Van den Einden, and the Qs survive and advance into the quarters.
2 days later, that Orange team took on the number 2 squad in the nation, Maryland, and the winner would punch their ticket to the Final Four. So a lot on the line entering that contest, and a true road game being played at Maryland. 5 minutes into the contest, SU actually started off on the right foot. Corinne Comens, and her initial shot gets deflected and ends up in the bottom right corner. 1-0 Syracuse right away. Again, big underdog heading into this game, but you go ahead, 15 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's the same score, but eventually Emma DeBurdine would break through for Maryland. Tied up at 1 apiece, it stays that score until there's just 5 minutes and 39 seconds left. Maryland looks like this could be the dagger. Sophie Clouts, bottom left, backhand, it's 2-1, but Syracuse refused to give up. Just under 2 minutes later, Yvke van den Nieuwenhof goes top shelf. We're tied at 2, we go to overtime. Past the overtime into a shootout period, Yvke van den Nieuwenhof again. Syracuse in the best of 5 shootout takes a 2-0 lead, but Maryland scraps and claws its way back into it. Remember this name, Hope Rose. First she goes backhand, and then once it becomes sudden death, that first one kept the game alive. This one puts Syracuse in a spot where the Orange need to score this next shot to keep the game going, and ultimately Maryland turns away this shot from Charlotte Davies. 3-2. Maryland ends SU's season in the quarterfinals. Well, Anthony, taking a look at both those two efforts, great on the road for Syracuse, but those shootouts, ultimately the Orange couldn't stand the test.
Something our field hockey beat reporter mentioned is Syracuse's penalty woes. They only got 4 of them, and they haven't been able to score on them all season, and it proves to be the end of Syracuse in this NCAA tournament.
Also, the goalie play from the Orange, huge, because take a look at the disparity between what Syracuse needed to get the game into overtime, what Maryland needed. Only 4 saves from the Terrapin side. The Orange keeper turning away 10 shots. And once you get into that extra session 2, it's so hard to stop those one-on-none shots on goal in the shootout.
Those penalty shootouts are tough, especially for Brooke Borzamowski, but the fact that she was a wall back there kept SU into this game and with a chance to go to the semifinals, although the effort came up short.
And for the second year in a row, Maryland Terrapins, they've just had the Orange number. They eliminate SU and their season in 2021 and in 2022.
The busy weekend of Sports on the Hill continued 4 hours south of us in Princeton, New York. That was the site of a 2-game ice hockey set between the Orange and the Tigers. And get this, SU is just 1-7-1 against non-CHA opponents. And one of the biggest reasons why? A leaky defense. And it was on display early on in this first period. Tigers punched the Orange in the mouth less than 6 minutes in. 8 minutes later, Dominique Cormier sends a rubber blur past Ariel Desmet. Now the referees may want to check the net for holes with the way Princeton was zinging it all afternoon. Syracuse does get some positive momentum going into game 2, but that didn't hide the score. Princeton prevails 4-2. Fast forward to tomorrow, though. It's a new day, and does it mean different results? Well, not really. Late in the first period, it was more bad defense from Syracuse. Princeton with the ball, with the puck, going behind the net, zinging that one in. Princeton draws first blood, but here's the highlight of the series for SU. Ariel Desmet, a textbook save that's so nice, we have to show it in slow-mo. Now it's desperation time for the Qs, but it's not even close. Orange dropped to 1-9-1 in non-CHA contests.
Well, Anthony, you mentioned it. Syracuse, it seems like there's two different Orange teams. There's the SU squad that has played pretty well in the CHA, outscored its opponent by 8 goals total. And then that non-conference schedule, look, it's been a gauntlet in the non-con, but minus 18 goal differential. It's unbelievable. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
That's right, and that title really says it all. Can Syracuse play only a CHA conference schedule? Because 29 shots per game usually means the winning team is going to have those shots.
And again, the CHA, obviously one of the weaker conferences in all of the country. With Robert Morris leaving, the NCAA told the CHA, hey, if you don't get another team back into this conference, you're going to lose your automatic bid. Then Robert Morris, of course, gets the program back onto the wheels, gets back in. So you're up to the total number of teams you need for an auto bid, but usually the absolute minimum is not what you want in conference. That's just what the CHA has for SU.
You know what I say, CHA is a too big league. Watch out for that one. But while it wasn't fun on the ice, we'll see if the volleyball team stopped its cold streak during the weekend trip around the Northeast. Don't touch that remote, because OTB rolls on after this.
I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Jason, let's go see your room.
How is it? Is it good?
Welcome back into OTB. John Dales with Anthony Vasquez. All right, let's go through the list. It's a 45-minute show, so we knew we were going to cover a lot of sports, but soccer, football, lacrosse, hockey, both ice and field hockey, that is. What are we missing? We haven't gotten water polo yet.
We haven't gotten water polo yet. We haven't gotten baseball yet. We haven't gotten men's hockey yet.
Well, unfortunately, Syracuse doesn't have any of those sports. I'll tell you something we are missing, though. Volleyball.
That is right. Syracuse volleyball took a tour of the Northeast over the weekend. First traveling south, looking for an upset bid over number 7 Pitt. And let's just say the Panthers are number 7 for a reason. Part of it is because of the home court advantage created down in the Steel City. The other, well, it's the actual play on the court, and it didn't take long for SU to find that out. Outgunned from the start. That spike is sent down. No chance of returning that one. Now it's Syracuse's turn. The set, the spike, and Pitt's like, nope, not happening. Not in our house. And this play really encapsulates this contest. Helpless ball to the net. You may want to check the court for a dent after that spike, and Pitt sweeps the Orange right off the hardwood. But now's not the time to quit, though. Orange with an opportunity to salvage the weekend in a much more winnable matchup against BC. But this spike right here sets the tone for the entire match. But SU fights back. This is probably one of the highlights of the weekend for Syracuse. A soft spike sent over, set up, and Lauren Woodford takes matters into her own hands. But once again, SU, no life, spike, dug out, and returned emphatically back to the sender. And the Qs are eventually swept again.
Well, I'll tell you what, Anthony, the SU volleyball team, let's talk about them a little bit quickly here.
Sure.
Because you bring back Polina Shimanova, and there's some pretty high hopes entering this year, but ultimately it seems like Shimanova's doing all she can, but those role players just not really playing their roles for Syracuse to get any wins.
The role players aren't playing, and that's probably because of the thin lineup Syracuse has. They don't have a lot of players compared to the upper echelon of the ACC, and that's probably why they're not really winning right now late in the year.
And again, we've talked about it with a lot of the different teams we've mentioned. The ACC is just that good in volleyball, too, that, you know, if you struggle in conference play, you struggle the whole season.
That's right, and there's a reason why number 7 Pittsburgh was number 7 Pittsburgh. Either Syracuse gets swept or they make it close. Lately, it's been a lot of sweeps, even against the non-ranked foes, too.
All right, well, another sport we hadn't touched on yet until now, Cross country and the SU men's and women's squad each earned automatic bid to the NCAA cross country championships this past weekend. This, of course, is after the men won the team title at the Northeast Regionals this past weekend. Cuse women did a bang-up job themselves as well, taking second place as a team. So those championships, as you look ahead, are this Saturday in Stillwater, Oklahoma. SU hoping for a repeat performance from what it saw this past weekend. Well, I promise you this, it's our last break. When we come back, we highlight our performers of the week and our top plays. OTV, back in 90 seconds.
Norm. He lives with anxiety, but with the help of this latest innovation from Be Normal, he can be normal, just like everyone else. With the swipe of a finger, you can project happiness, confidence, machismo. Why settle for being real when you can be normal? The Normal Maker, new from Be Normal. This item doesn't really work because there's no such thing as normal. We're all different. What we like, how our brains work. In fact, 1 in 5 of us live with mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Start by talking to someone you trust. And remember, there is no
Welcome back into On the Bench with Anthony Vasquez. I'm John Dales. We've done it all. Some would say we outside was what we were earlier. Now we're inside the CitrusTV studios, and there have been so many standout performances this past week that we've highlighted on this show. It feels almost impossible to narrow it down all the way to 5, right? Doesn't it?
That's right. With the way it's crossover season, more sports, more players, it's really hard to narrow it down.
Well, that is why they pay our producer team the big bucks.
That is fair.
Because we've gotten it done. We've narrowed it down to 5 top performers, and we start with our performers of the week with Elena Rice. The guard on the SU Women's Hoops team put up 16 points and had 6 rebounds against Colgate. She was 6 of 7 from the floor in that one, 2 of 2 from beyond the arc as well, and at 5'8", got a block in that contest. She wasn't done just against Colgate though. 8 more points, 8 more rebounds against Binghamton, and I mentioned 5'8". I'm going to mention it again because she's second on the team in rebounds through 3 games. At 5'8", it's unbelievable.
That's right, but our second performer of the week had her season end prematurely, but not without a bang. FK van den Nieuwenhof earns her spot on the board right behind me after scoring not 1, but 2 goals this week in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, though, her squad was bounced after a quarterfinal loss, but the Dutch junior caps off her breakout campaign, 3rd on the team with 10 goals and 5 assists, and that's some momentum that could be taken into next fall for her senior year. Big play for FK van den Nieuwenhof.
Our third performer of the week thankfully didn't have his season come to an end this past week, and it's Lorenzo Baselli. Anthony, he basically lived out the moment you dream of as a kid.
I mentioned earlier, not a household name like Levante Johnson and Nathan Opoku, but that's who you need getting it done come tournament time.
Kicking the soccer ball around your backyard, you think about times when your team needs a goal to keep the game alive. He did that in the 83rd minute against UVA on Wednesday. Down by 1, ties it up, and then against Clemson, scored the first goal of the contest, which ended up being the game-winning goal of the contest. Lorenzo Baselli, 2 huge goals, maybe the 2 biggest goals of his career, helps SU bring home the ACC title.
Moving on to the hard court now. Women's basketball has had such a good start to the season. It only makes sense that we have 2 women's basketball players in our performers of the week. Dariana Lewis bursted onto the scene in her first year on campus, making herself known throughout the ACC. And the Alabama A&M transfer was a menace down low, recording 2 double-doubles this week. She has 3 in the team's first 3 games on the season. And by the way, John, she's shooting 63% from the field. Now, granted, the competition was mid-major squads, but the fact that she provides some rebounding prowess to a team that desperately needed it last year is a step in the right direction.
Dariana Lewis and Elena Rice doing a bang-up job rebounding. One maybe a little bit taller than the other, but you talked about how SU last season undersized, kind of undermanned, didn't have a ton of depth. Got to be encouraging for SU women's basketball fans with what FLJ has been doing just through a couple of games.
Dawn of a new era inside the JMA Dome. Coach Felicia Liggett-Jack, she's a program builder. She did it at Buffalo. She's going to do it here at Syracuse.
New era for SU women's hoops, and kind of a new era, even though you've had the same head coach for a while, on SU men's soccer. We started the show with them. We go back to SU men's soccer. Lorenzo Baselli already became a Performer of the Week, and our last Performer of the Week is Russell Shealy, also known as a brick wall in between the pipe for Syracuse. The Cuse goaltender guided SU to an ACC championship with not one but 2 shutouts in 3 contests in the quarterfinals. North Carolina didn't sneak a single goal by him. Shealy had 4 saves. UVA did get a couple past him in that semifinal game, but in the championship, Shealy on his game again. 4 saves, no goals allowed. He was named tournament MVP in the ACC for a good reason.
And Russell Shealy, you called him the wall for a reason. He's been huge for the Syracuse squad, and there's a reason why. Well, Syracuse is one of the best defenses in the ACC.
So exciting stuff, really, for SU men's soccer, because you got coming up the NCAA tournament. I know we highlighted it. Number 3 overall seed. The way they're playing, really scary team right now.
But the thing is about the number 3 seed, you have the biggest target on your back, and we'll see if the randomness of soccer goes SU's way.
All right, so those are our top performers, and we're probably going to see a repeat of that in our top plays starting right now. Our 5 best plays on the hill this past week. We start with Charlotte DeVries on the field hockey team. She scores a goal right away against Maryland on a beautiful assist from Comans. This was Syracuse's first goal of the game. SU obviously goes on to lose, but big start in that one.
Meanwhile, in the Dome, number 4 comes to us from the Loud House. Derek McDonald breaks through the wall, sacks, and strips Jordan Travis. The Cuse, they steal possession, but not the win in prime time. Syracuse losing that one big against the Noles.
One of few highlights in that game for Syracuse. Our third play of the week, Deasia Fair, the Buffalo transfer. Take a look at this step back 3. Not sure you could get much more separation on a single move than that. That put SU up 13-9. The Orange go on to win big against Binghamton, thanks in a large part to Fair.
Headed back to the pitch, Russell Shealy was a Performer of the Week. Now he's in our top plays. The second best play of the week comes to us from North Carolina. Look at this play right here. Airborne is the one word all you need to hear. Take a look at this one more time. That's why he earned tournament MVP, did Russell Shealy.
I don't know if I can do that. I think he jumped taller than his
I'll
actual
break everything
height
if I
on that
tried.
one. Number 1 overall play, this goal coming up from Jonah Label. You ever heard of the term defense into offense, AV?
I love defense.
Well, that's what happened on this play. Set up by Kurt Kalov. He finds Jonah Label, who stings the back of the net. Syracuse takes a 2-0 lead at that point. The Orange would not look back the entire rest of the way. Finish up as ACC tournament champions, taking the big picture, and a lot of celebration down in Cary, North Carolina. They deserve to celebrate.
A lot of celebration out there, a lot of celebration inside SU men's soccer stadium, especially here in the studio with John Dales leading the way. Excellent job, by the way.
Excellent job yourself.
Thank you.
Great
Looking dapper right now.
45-minute show. Worked out. Well, alongside Anthony Vasquez, I'm John Dales. Thanks so much for watching. And now we finish out this 45-minute OTB with your images of the week.
Right fall to the feet of Baselli, bounce around, Baselli's there! It's goal 1-0! Fell to his feet and he remains hot. Equalizer in the semifinal, gives him a lead in the final. Body's flailing, Gomez, first time shot! Shealy equal to the task. Played through an opportunity here, flag stays down. Shot in the back of the net! 2-0, what a counter the other way! Jonah Label! For the second time in the history of Syracuse and the ACC, they are ACC men's soccer champions.